back. We're with Doug McNeil from Eolas Insight. Doug, thank you ever so much for joining us. We're in the Upstart Startup Zone at Digital DNA Glasgow. Thank you ever so much for being with us today. How have you experienced the event so far? Has it been a good crack for you today?
Yeah, it's been really good. Really good opportunity to kind of get around all the different companies and introduce our company. So much going on here in Glasgow, and obviously with the connections from over the water, then being able to engage with organisations from kind of both communities has been really powerful, I think.
Awesome. Yeah, no, totally. And I love the fact that this is in Glasgow as well, because obviously, like, one of the vibes that I've got is there's actually a little bit of competition between Glasgow and Edinburgh. I don't know if that's something that I'm only picking up on. Is it something that's here?
Oh, it's a big one. It's a big one. Now, so we're actually based in Edinburgh, but I live in Glasgow. And, every commute through, I'm just gradually getting more and more depressed as I get closer to Edinburgh. But
like, do you find obviously like that both ecosystems have their own merits in their own ways as well?
Yeah. So my sector is kind of set up in the space sector, which is one of the sectors we operate in. It's kind of set up that Glasgow's established itself as more of a hardware development, so building satellites. Whereas Edinburgh set itself up as more of a satellite data utilisation hub. Which is why we're kind of based in Edinburgh, despite me living in Glasgow. I guess there is a little bit of competition, but it's mostly kind of fun.
Well bantered.
Yeah, that's exactly it. But it's kind of good that within that sector we've got these two different hubs delivering two really powerful and different capabilities.
And two really powerful kind of things within the sector that you work in as well, which must be quite exciting. So tell us a little bit more about Eolas and what you're up to.
So Eolas develop technological solutions for the ecological environmental sectors. So some of our early work is focused on the detection of animals in both satellite and aerial data. So that's data collected by light aircraft. And we use artificial intelligence and we feed in these images, and then the AI will pick out where the different animals are and classify them.
Amazing. Now, give me the benefits of doing that. Like, what is the solution that you're giving to people with that?
So for that particular instance, it started off as an organisation called Nature Scot here in Scotland. They were doing something similar, a deer count, using helicopters. But helicopters are very expensive, but they're also not very environmentally friendly, which is a problem if you're the environmental agency for a country. So they were looking for alternative solutions, and we suggested satellite data, but we've also started to look at aerial data, so light aircraft data. And that will reduce costs, but will also reduce the overall emissions by around 20 times.
Amazing.
Lower cost, lower emission solutions.
And are you looking at drones as well? Is that something that you started to use, or
Yeah, we use drones predominantly on other projects. So we're also looking more widely at other environmental kind of applications for AI and remote sensing technologies. So we've used drones for mapping 3D models of national parks and things like that. So it tends to be the scale that you're working at. So if you're working in a small area, drones are good. If you're working in a moderate sized area, light aircraft are better. And then if you're working at a national scale, then satellites are what you want to use.
Man, I'm thinking of the global potential for this. So I'm guessing it must be that you're looking at kind of areas of the world where there is low population but large animal numbers as well, but you just aren't able to map it geographically.
That's it. Well, we actually have a project at the moment in Mozambique where we're looking at detection of elephants and kind of other large herbivores, working with a national park agency there. So we've been actually using 30 centimetre resolution satellite data, which is the highest capability satellite essentially that is on orbit at the moment. We've been using and tasking that satellite to deliver data over Mozambique for us. And from that, we're not only detecting animals, but also looking at fire risk and also looking at habitats, which are changing quite a lot in response to climate change. So.
Are you going to continue to focus on the environmental and animal aspect, or is there other industries where you feel this technology could be applied as well?
Well, I think in future, probably medium to long term, there's other areas. Essentially, these tools could be applied to anything. Machine learning will only pick out what you show it, so you have to train it to do something. So all of our training to date is focused on animals because that's kind of our beachhead market. But in future we could expand out of that, but I do want to stay within the environmental sector predominantly, just because
it's a passion.
It kind of feels like the right
No, 100%. And let's take a step back to obviously when you started the organisation. what was the passion point behind it? Or like, what was your background before this to get to this as a business?
So yeah, I was working in Glasgow actually in the upstream space sector, so building satellites themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, but basically I was asked by essentially a friend, and I'm from the Highlands of Scotland originally, to see whether we could use drones for a woodland survey, which is pretty standard, but B, they wanted to also look at whether they could detect deer with drones.
Yeah.
And it kind of didn't really work out for us on the methodology that we were using.
Yeah.
So being that I was working in the space sector, I went away and had a look at what was available in terms of satellite imagery. And we kind of felt that it was kind of right on the cusp.
Yeah.
So from that, we kind of grew out of that and made connections with Nature Scott, who are interested in taking it forward.
So like, where do you see it going in terms of the actual use of the technology? I'm guessing as the technology improves and the AI improves itself as well, there's more opportunity on this as well on a micro scale.
So where we're actually going is making our data products and AI data products easier to access.
Yeah.
So a problem at the moment is that people within certain sectors aren't really familiar with what technologies are available to them. So what we're developing is a geospatial platform, a web-based platform that allow people to simply draw a box around their area of interest and then extract information directly about their area of interest. So that could be what the habitats are there, it could be what's happening with the woodland, it could be the number of deer that they have, number of elephants. But yeah, it's more about creating scalability for the business and kind of putting these AI tools in the hands of our users.
Any other, I mean, obviously, before we go on to obviously where people can find out about what you're doing, any other collaborations that you're working on? Not necessarily with industry, but I'm thinking of other tech providers. Are you working with anyone else? I'm thinking of like What Three Words, for example, and obviously the use of their kind of postcode alternative to map the world in a sense. So is there any kind of collaborations on that scale, or?
At the moment, What Three Words are maybe more about addressing and things like that. But yeah, there's a lot going on in the geospatial sector, like a huge amount of like really innovative companies coming out of it. I would say as well that most of our projects are collaborative. So sometimes we work with kind of high-end satellite data analytics companies. Sometimes we work with geospatially oriented organizations. But yeah, at the moment that's kind of building consortiums which allow us to deliver really complex pieces of work, because as a startup you sometimes don't have all the skills that you need.
For sure.
I would say that most of our collaborations at the moment are involved with the environmental sector. So people like ecologists and other organisations.
I'm just thinking of like sometimes like it flips the other way as well. There was a company that I know from London called Go Jauntly, and it's an app that obviously gives people obviously walking routes. But I do remember maybe 12 to 18 months ago they were working on a project where while people are out walking, the human aspect of that is being able to identify wildlife or animals as they go and being able to kind of map them on the app so that we get a better understanding of what numbers of plant life or wildlife are around us. So it's interesting where something like this could take you, and I'm sure obviously it's quite an exciting space for you to be in, because each client is a new opportunity really in a sense.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of why we're developing the geospatial platform, because like that it's done within the sector of citizen science, so the ability for someone to go out and kind of interact with nature in that way, and if we can create kind of APIs and just mechanisms that allow us to pull that data into this centralised repository for environmental information, it's going to add so much more. And ground-based validation of remote sensing data, that's the number one problem.
Big style, and it's just really exciting, and obviously the more that you kind of use the technology, the more probably opportunities and potential it has as well, and the more people see it being used as well. So it must be quite an exciting time for you.
That's exactly it, and just kind of building up that platform and seeing kind of all of these kind of microservices that we've developed over time, which we've kind of distributed through our personal network, seeing them being rolled up into automated applications and just being much more available to people.
Are you working with like Geovation and all those kind of Esri and all that kind of stuff?
So we're on Geovation, we're just alumni just recently.
Okay, cool.
So actually today we've got a blog piece that the Ordnance Survey have released about our animal detection work, particularly elephants. That was also in like a number of kind of print newspaper publications and things like that as well. So that's been really useful on that front. But working Ordnance Survey, we talk to quite a lot. particularly looking at integrating their data, because Ordnance Survey data is really familiar to people in the environmental sector. They've been using it for years, and maybe that's a more effective kind of base mapping layer for us rather than imagery itself.
Certainly. No, right, final shout out, where can people find out about where you're up to, what you're up to as well, like website and stuff?
So you can look us up on eolasinsight.com. We're also on LinkedIn as well, and that's it. I'm too old or long in the tooth for Twitter or anything.
Let the technology work rather than doing all this social. I tend to agree that might be the best thing for your time at the moment as well. It's been great chatting to you. We're at Digital DNA Glasgow. We'll be back after a short break. Thank you.